Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the part three of Kniesha Knows Nothing, KKN, here on the Reading Room. If you could hit like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. This one's probably the best one of the three. It really does go into the lack of understanding Kniesha has about all of evolution, all of scientific theory. What is the difference between abiogenesis and evolution? And a lot of the time, you'll see me sitting there going, well, "I've already explained this." And as I sort of addressed some comments in the last couple of sections, a lot of them said, "Yeah, she's not even listening," and I would agree with that. She's really not interested in the answers I have to give. All she wants to do is double down on it's impossible, can't have happened, won't have happened, and I can't be convinced otherwise because she isn't actually listening to the answers. She is, I would say, a paradigm of Dunning-Kruger syndrome. She isn't even aware. She doesn't even have knowledge of how little she knows about these subjects. And that is really sad and disheartening. And she isn't really listening to the answers. She's just looking for keywords to sort of say, hey, no, it can't be this, it can't be that, and repeat things she's been told, even though they sound nonsensical. And you'll see that as we go along, as I sort of shoot down all of these things as straw men, because that's exactly what they are. They are caricatures of the actual arguments and the actual scientific progress we have made on understanding life on this planet. So, and she doesn't even understand basic biology, which is really disheartening because I know people in high school who have such a better understanding of basic biology. At one point, she claims that all organisms have male and female and use sexual reproduction. And when I push back on this and say, no, not all of them, some use asexual reproduction, she thinks I'm talking about asexual people, like an LGBTQ term. I wish I was joking, but this is the case. She doesn't even understand how things reproduce, yet she wants to talk authoritatively on evolution when she doesn't understand it. And the callers that come in afterwards, because I think sort of losing ground against me, she wants people to call in, and they don't listen either. They don't understand the subject. They are absolutely ignorant of anything about it, yet so convinced it could be impossible for it to happen. And it's really an indictment on the capacity for Christians to really, or young earth creationists, I should say, because there's multiple Christians that accept evolution, young earth creationists that understanding the science. It's because they have this inherent bias. They don't want to understand the science. They don't want to understand it correctly. They just want it not to be true. And I think this, above all the others, really exemplifies that Kniesha knows nothing. Let's get ready to rumble.
We got our first person on, Mark. What's up, dude?
Hello, good to see you again.
Good to see you too. What time is it over there?
10 in the morning.
Oh, good timing then. This is perfect then.
Yeah. I wanted to sort of bring some papers and things. Maybe I can, like, if you want to say proof, like I think sort of evidence is probably how I would take that. Proofs usually only exist in mathematics and not really through any of the other sciences, kind of thing. But I do have some sort of papers explaining stuff if you do want to. But I was interested in why you think it's a lie, like why you're sort of saying, hey, we're all lying.
Because it's an absolute, you're believing a lie. It's not that you're lying, but you're believing a lie because it is a lie. And this is why I'm saying whoever comes on tonight, if it's not a lie, the burden of proof is on you to prove something evolving. And I want all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back to the beginning of what?
Because that's what it would have to start. If we did evolve, we need the start point.
Okay, so evolution doesn't deal with the start point. That's
Of course it doesn't, because it's a
abiogenesis. And I'm
lie.
sure I've given you that information before, that it's abiogenesis for where life came from, or that's the hypothesis. And evolution deals with how life changes. It doesn't deal with anything else. So when you're sort of going, I want back to the beginning, it's very interesting because we're not sort of saying that we know exactly how life came about. Nobody's saying that. It's evolution just deals with how things change. So when
So,
you're
but
sort
this
of
is what I'm
going
saying.
back
Something
to the
had to
beginning,
start,
you're
Mark.
creating a straw man. It's
No,
called a straw
no,
man.
no straw man.
No, it is. It's a
No straw
straw
man.
man
Nope, no straw
because
man.
you're
If this is the
misrepresenting the
truth,
actual theory.
if this is the truth,
Mhm.
something can't just evolve from nothing. So what was the
What do you
starting
mean
point?
nothing?
What
What do
was
you mean
the
by
starting point?
nothing?
Because how can you evolve from something if there wasn't a start point to evolve from?
Well, we're not saying there wasn't a start point. We're
That's
saying we're
what
not
I'm
sure
asking
how the
for.
start point came about. Do you want me to go into abiogenesis? But do realize that abiogenesis isn't evolution. They're
I
not the
know
same
what
thing.
abiogenesis
And
is. I'm talking about evolution.
okay, well, you explain abiogenesis for the people then.
So do you think that natural selection is
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you
what
explain
happened?
abiogenesis for the people then? I want to see how much
The
you know
beginning of
about
things, the
this.
beginning of things. That's what it is. The beginning where it
That is
started from.
not that
I'm
is not
talking about
abiogenesis. That's
evolution
not.
tonight.
Yes.
Evolution.
Yes. So evolution, as I've told you before, is the change in heritable characteristics over time. Now, you're talking about the theory of evolution, which sort of says that throughout time, humans evolved from more basal life forms, going all the way back to single cells. And the tree of life is basically that all organisms are interconnected. They are all related to one another. That we have all got a lineages that are connected to one another. So if you want to talk about evolution, fine, that's not a problem. But I'll talk about evolution. If you want to talk about abiogenesis, fine. But realize that we aren't as confident on abiogenesis, and we aren't exactly sure how it occurred. We've worked out, I think, 8 of the 12 steps that needs to be done, but it's sort of a field that people are working on. If you want to talk about cosmogony, where the universe comes from, that's fine, but realize that we can
Let
only
me
go
tell you
back
what
to
I
the.
want to talk about. And when this is
Okay.
just it. Okay. So evolution had to have, if it's true, had to have a start point. We can't just go
Sure.
halfway in our timeline and say, we'll just talk about from this half on. We've got
Well,
to
we're not.
address when it started, evolution started.
Sure.
So
Sure.
what started, that's when I asked you, do you
Mhm.
believe the evolution is the natural selection method?
Well, back when, like, we think that back when it was protocells, all we had was a selection mechanism and a replication mechanism. And I've told you this before. Like, so that's all that's required for heritable characteristics to be passed down through lineages. So when you have those characteristics, but in order to do that, the protocell has to come about first, and that is abiogenesis, right? The emergence of those protocells. Um, After that, for all that evolution needs to work is those two things: selection and replication, and that's it.
So selection and replication is what is needed for
Mhm.
evolution.
Well, to start off with, yeah. Because don't forget that when you're talking about, or when evolution first started kind of thing, you're talking about only prokaryotes. You're only talking about very, very, I mean, I don't like to use the word primitive, but basal single cell organisms. You're not talking about multicellular organisms.
So where's that proof?
Where's what proof?
That it was just like these cells, whatever. Like I mean, like
Oh,
literally, where is the proof that where you get this as it's a matter of fact? Like we evolved, we weren't created. Where is this?
oh, yeah. So it's because as you go back through the fossil record, you will get sort of less and less and less complex organisms until you get to single-celled organisms. In fact, the oldest organisms are things like stromatolites. There's still these colonies of single-celled organisms around Western Australia where I am, and they're fascinating because they are so old and haven't really changed that much all that time, because they fulfill a niche and were generally shielded from any kind of predator. I remember saying like predation is one of the pressures that can cause things to change quickly. So if you don't have a lot of pressures, you basically don't change that much. Like, for instance, sharks, right? They haven't changed that much in the last few million years. There've been some changes. They've definitely gotten smaller than the megalodon, but they haven't changed that much.
I gotta stop you. This is why I'm saying this is dumb. I'm not trying to insult you.
What do you mean?
But it's dumb because there's still sharks. There's still nothing has ever changed kinds. If evolution theory is true, and we have not always been exactly what we are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you say kinds, like you get things like Australopithecus afarensis or Ardipithecus, they are basically we cannot categorize them. I think I lost you.
Yeah, hold on. My camera's going. Hold on, give me 1 second. My camera
is
turned off. Okay, I'm back. I don't know why I just shut off, but go ahead.
Yeah, so you have stuff like Australopithecus, Ardipithecus. They are previous sort of Homo. They're not even Homo. They're not even like related to humans. They're very, very much less complex and more ape-like creatures that we can't even really say whether they, creationists argue over whether they're a ape or whether they're an early form of human, and we get a long sequence of these more primitive ape-like traits, like a flat nose, protruding jaw, long arms, but they walked upright like humans, and they were in the African savanna. So, and Ardipithecus even more so. It's even more like sort of ape-like. So we can project the changes through all of these animals, and it fits exactly with what the genetic evidence tells us as well. So it all adds up.
Though? Where's the evidence for us actually changing? Where is that at? Because it's all theories. There's zero evidence at all
what's a theory to you?
For us being monkeys or whatever, and then now us being this.
So when you say monkeys, right, like there is a classification called Old World monkeys, which is kind of like apes, right? Like, but monkeys as in New World monkeys, the ones that you see in the zoo or whatever, they're not our ancestors.
You know what I'm talking about, though. Like,
well,
you know exactly what I'm saying.
You seem to be, and this is why I sort of say it's a straw man, because you're sort of really misrepresenting what the science actually says and then trying to make it sound crazy. But the thing is that the science doesn't say. Well, I know you're saying that, and I'm trying to tell you how we have tons of evidence, a mountain of evidence that all of this happened. I have Australopithecus, Ardipithecus. I have endogenous retroviruses. I have chromosome 2. There is a ton of evidence. But the problem is that you don't understand enough about it, which is why I brought the papers, to know exactly why it's so compelling evidence. And you refuse to look at it and you say, oh, it's a lie. But I think that's motivated.
I haven't refused to look at anything. I've asked you.
Okay, cool.
I asked you and I stated, sorry, there's a bug. I asked you and I stated, as soon as this started, what this stream is for, I want you to give me the proof of the evolution happening. But that has not happened. We've been going 15 minutes now, but that has not happened.
But like, what do you expect to be as proof? Like, do you expect a chicken to give birth to a fish or something?
This is what I mean by proof. This is what I mean by proof. God in our Bible, the one that you don't believe, Our Bible
Yeah.
says that we were created as humans. Dogs were created as dogs, cows as cows, trees as trees, monkeys as monkeys, fish as fish. Okay. So I can say, well, I can show you proof. I've told you this before, Mark. You keep saying I brought this to your attention before. Well, I've told you this before. I can literally go have sex with my husband and create another human. There's proof. We're repeating the exact same kind. Now traits, if you're talking about traits, the last time you were on, you were talking about small little genetic traits. Okay, that's just what happens with people.
Actually,
so if we can keep going down the line, okay, my hair is very curly. Maybe 2 generations from now, my grandchildren or great-grandchildren won't have curly hair. Maybe they'll have straight red hair. Okay, that's just how that works. But they never change the kind that they are. They're still human beings. Just like dogs are still dogs. It doesn't matter if they're a Chihuahua or a Great Dane. They're still a dog.
Actually,
so I want the proof of evolution happening.
Actually, I brought up a family in Brazil that have 6 fingers on each hand, and their entire family passes along that genetic claim.
They were still human.
That's human is just a label we put on things. Like, this is the thing. You're thinking that human is this category that is physically separate from everything else. And it's fine to sort of go, well, humans were created independently, but you can't sort of go, well, you have to show me in my paradigm, my everything has to be separate, that that is wrong. Because you're sort of, the magic book that you've got doesn't actually represent it correctly. And we have science to investigate this stuff. I'm going to, if I can, I want to share with you. And I think I explained it, what endogenous retroviruses were. And you never answered why we share like a ridiculous percentage of these viruses with chimpanzees, for instance.
And the viruses, they still are viruses, right?
What do you mean?
The viruses are still viruses, whether they were in the monkey or in the human. The virus was still a virus, correct?
Well, I can explain. The only way the virus can get into our DNA is infecting a random point in a germline, a sperm or an egg. That's the only way they can get there. And we've seen this time and time again. We've seen it happen with all kinds of retroviruses like HIV and things like that. We've absolutely seen it. The only way it can get there is an infection in either a sperm or an egg. And in order for that to go into every cell in the body, it like the chances of that happening in the I believe it's like 80 or something of these viruses shared between us and chimpanzees, it just wouldn't happen. It can't happen. You're basically suggesting that a virus infected the same point in our DNA when it gets inserted randomly in both us and the chimpanzee. But the other hypothesis is, well, we had a common ancestor. That ancestor was infected, and then it split up to both chimps and humans, and that's the other hypothesis.
But my question though was that virus that you're talking about is still a virus.
It doesn't matter whether it's a virus or
because this is my point of what I'm saying, that there's no such thing as evolution, Mark.
That's not
I mean this with
any
all
kind
love.
of evidence.
I'm honestly meaning this with all love. It's a lie. You are literally believing a lie.
You not only don't understand what an endogenous retrovirus is, you don't understand how it applies.
Just 1 second, okay? This is why the science community keeps tacking on years and years and years, because you'll never get the proof to show it. Because it's a lie.
No, actually, it basically was the geologists that first said it was years and years and years because of what they found, to do with rocks, radiometric dating, things like that. It's just evolution fitted very, very perfectly in with what the geologists were saying. So, you have this overwhelming it's all a conspiracy. All of these people are lying. And to be honest with you, it sounds like a flat earther. They do exactly the same thing. Everyone's lying. Everyone's lying. And that sort of conspiratorial
Are
thinking
Christians
is
lying?
pseudoscience. I don't think they're lying, but I think they're being lied to. I think
Bingo.
that the people that are saying,
That's what I
hey,
told
you know,
you.
you had a magic zoo boat that is responsible for the distribution of animals on the world from a flood that we can't find any evidence of, is laughable. I mean, that is laughable. Even though you have civilizations like the Egyptians going all throughout the time of the flood without mentioning a flood whatsoever, because we have the hieroglyphics and things. You have the Japanese and the Chinese just going throughout that era with, they didn't notice the worldwide flood. I mean, it is patently ridiculous. Whereas what we're saying is we've got infections from viruses in the same point in multiple organisms, that the only way they could get there is if those organisms shared a separate ancestor. And I don't know what that comment was about pigs. We're definitely more similar to chimps. I've heard this thing of, why do we use pig hearts? It's because pig hearts are a lot more accessible than chimpanzee hearts. But you still need to have them genetically modified, the pig hearts, in order to be any kind of you know, compatibility with humans. Thousands of scientists that believe more. Yeah, someone's been pulling your leg, mate. Honestly, someone's been telling you this, and you know, it's funny because an overwhelming amount of Christians believe in evolution too. So even if they did convert, it doesn't mean that they're gonna, like, you know, just go, well, we're gonna throw evolution out the window. Evolution is also important because stuff like these retroviruses that I'm talking about, they can reactivate. We need to understand what they are. But you're sort of going, well, it conflicts with my religious beliefs, so I'm not going to believe it. I'm just going to call
that's
it a
not it.
lie.
There's no proof, is what I'm saying. There has never been, not one time, any proof of us being a chimp at one point in time.
No,
There's
we weren't
never
a
been
chimp.
proof.
No, I never said that. This is your failure
Okay,
to
it doesn't matter
understand
if
the
it's a
theory
chimp,
of
it's
it.
a
No,
fish, if it's a
Kniesha, let me
piece of
finish.
germ.
Let me finish. This is the straw man, right? This is you misrepresenting. Either I don't know. I think it's accidental. I wouldn't like to think it's deliberate, but you're misrepresenting the theory because you're saying we were chimps when that is not what it says. It says that we and chimps had a common ancestor. We didn't come from chimps. And this shows your ignorance on the theory because you're sort of trotting out these things that are nobody's saying. Nobody's saying that we had a chimp in our ancestry.
So where did we come from? Just answer that then. I'll be quiet. Where did we come from?
Where did we come from?
Yeah.
A long line, probably Homo erectus to Homo habilis to Homo neanderthalis is also in our DNA as well.
Okay,
Because
explain
that
what that
got
is.
integrated.
Explain what that is.
Well, Neanderthals were a sort of subcategory of humans. They were a sort of more basal human that lived in Europe at some point. So Europeans generally have a higher amount of Neanderthal DNA, but they're not Homo sapiens. They're not modern anatomical humans. They sort of interbred with, I believe it was Cro-Magnon. I'd have to look up that. The Cro-Magnon humans. So when you're saying, where did humans come from? When you're talking evolution, there's no demarcation, like it just starts from this point, right? Like you're really misunderstanding what we're saying. I realize that in your paradigm, there's Adam and Eve, and they came from a place and suddenly appeared, you know, out of a rib or whatever the thing is. But that's not what evolution says. It says there's a long line of small changes all gradually building up. And we say, okay, we see these distinct changes. We're going to say that's Cro-Magnon man. And before that, that's Homo habilis, right? We're going to put that distinction there. But in reality, there's no distinction. Like there's just a long line of changes all going to a genetic separation between the earlier one and the later one. So it's all a spectrum, but you're sort of looking at it as, oh, well, there's this you know, say Australopithecus, and then it gives birth to a Homo sapiens, and that no one's saying that. Like that's your misunderstanding of the theory. Nobody is saying that.
So You basically just said we came from a different kind of like human, but it was still human.
I'm not sure what you mean by kind. I'm
So
not sure what you mean by kind.
you said like a subhuman.
Well, human is everything in the genus Homo, right? Like, so Homo habilis, Homo neanderthalis, like all of the Homo stuff, and Homo sapiens, which is just the label we give to modern anatomical humans. But they weren't humans; they were Australopithecines. But they have human traits. That's the thing. Like, if you wanted to find, so the reason why Australopithecus afarensis is really hated by young Earth creationists is that, you cannot, like, they have human traits and they have traits of other apes. They are literally almost exactly in between humans and apes. Australopithecus is really, if you want to say missing link, that's it. So, I mean, all of this evidence, like, I mean, if that wasn't a human ancestor, then what is it? Why do these apes are upright, walking around? They seem to care for one another because we found some with broken bones and that have been like nursed by the others, kind of thing. What's that all about? What are they? Because we've got the bones for them. I'd like to hear what they are to you.
The monkey bones, the ape bones.
Well, they're not monkeys. They stand
Ape
upright.
Bones, I'll be specific. Ape bones.
Then why do they have human features like the extruding jaw and things like that?
That doesn't make them human. Similarities like that doesn't make something that thing. I can see a face in a rock. It doesn't mean the rock had a human background.
Yes, but it's not just like they have like hips like humans, right? Somewhere in between the type of hips that a chimpanzee has and the type of hips that a human has. And what I'm asking is, why do they have those traits? If you're saying, hey, they're
Because
just
they were
created
created
kinds.
that way, but they were created that way. That's like the simplicity of it. That they're all, no matter what, they're in the same category. Okay.
As what?
Apes,
As
gorillas,
apes or humans?
No. Apes.
Well, then why do
Gorillas.
they have human traits if they were created
When you
separately?
say human traits, earlier you said
Yeah.
human wasn't really like, it was just a word. So you're saying human traits. What is this
Yeah.
human traits you're specifically talking about now? Because
Well,
earlier human wasn't even a word.
okay, so there's a hole in the back of your head, right? Like that accepts your spine. I can't remember the name of it. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, it's basically, it's down towards the base of your skull because you stand upright and your spine goes into your head. Other apes, they actually have it further up because they're down. They actually don't have the same setup that we do. Now, Australopithecus sort of has one that isn't as low as a human's on the skull, but it isn't as high as an ape's. It seems to be in between, but it's more like a human's. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'll look it up. So it's traits like that. As I said, the hips, like you have with bipedality, the hips have to be over the legs rather than sort of, leaning forward. And we find that in these because we study bones. Foramen, yeah, that sounds right.
So you're saying because of certain traits that you think that we once were them or like them. Is that right? Just yes or no, like just simplified word. Is that what you're saying? Because of traits like the hips, you say, and then the neck bone, the hole at the bottom of the head.
Well, it's what we'd expect to see if things were separate from one another or whether they came from the same origin. Like if they were separate from one another, we should find no animals with traits. They're called mosaic species. They're traits that are common they have traits that are from two different kinds, if you will, I guess. So they have traits coming from the ape kind and from the human kind. Now, if they were created separately, we would not expect to find that. We would just find, apes all the way down and humans all the way down. But that's not what we find. We find that the as we go backwards, those lines get really blurred to the point that some of the fossils that we have, we're not exactly sure whether to put them in with the sort of human lineage or in with the ape lineage. It gets really blurry. And so we just go, well, that isn't something we'd expect to find.
So for me, Mark, it's really, really sad because it's just you believe that we are these animals, or we're ancestors of animals, and you don't believe that you are actually like individually unique and over creation, as far as the birds, the bees, water. You can build buildings, you have community, etc., on a whole different way that animals don't have. And it's like you're dumbing yourself down in the rest of mankind down to an animalistic level.
I don't think
and
I
if,
am.
if we were animals, then we can't have morals, because animals don't have morals.
That's not, I mean, I would agree with that with some caveats, but let me address your first thing first. I'm not lowering humans at all. I think we're very unique. I think that our ability to do cognition, like sort of type 2 thinking, is incredible. I think it's amazing the things that we have going for us. I mean, basically, I would say that humans dumped all points in intelligence. Like, we really have made that ability to think our weapon, our defense, our entire way of life, and that's been incredible for us. Like, don't get me wrong, I do not take humanity lightly. I'm a secular humanist, which means that I prioritize humans above and beyond everything else on this planet. But when you sort of say, hey, animals don't have morality, I don't think so. They don't have any codified morality, but they do sort of have a proto-morality. For instance, I'll give you an example. There's a monkey called a capuchin. Have you seen them? They're incredibly cute, capuchin monkeys. And they actually, when they like sort of forage and look for stuff, some of them, they have an alarm system where one yells out and cries if there's a snake nearby, because they love snake eggs. So they will look, and if one finds a snake egg like thing, he's supposed to share the food with the rest of the troop. Now, sometimes they lie. They basically sound the alarm for a snake when there's no snake there and eat the egg themselves. They basically steal from the rest of their tribe and lie to them by pretending there's a snake around, so the others scatter and won't see him eating their food. Now, those capuchin monkeys, if they find out he's lied, if they sort of get that, hey, there's no snake around, and find this guy eating eggs, they will actually banish him from the troop. They will throw him out, sometimes attack him. They will actually take actions to say, you ought not lie. So while I don't think it's morality because it isn't codified, I think it is that proto-morality. It's sort of getting to, hey, you should not lie and steal from the rest of the troop, the rest of the monkeys. We've done all kinds of experiments with capuchins. They're very socially orientated. And so I don't think it's accurate to say that they have no sense of morality at all. I just think it's not codified. It's sort of these, instinctive oughts kind of thing. But I don't know why you need a God for morality for oughts anyway. I don't understand, because I have a moral system that serves me quite well. So I don't understand
because
why
God gave you that moral system. Did
he? Can you prove that?
Yeah. You're the same as you're the same as the rest of us, but tonight's not about me. Before we get into the rest of our conversation, Bruce, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi.
Hello.
Is that God?
Is that God? No. I'm far from God, bro.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
I've been listening to you for a little while, brother. Let me ask you, do you have a conscience? If you walked into a store, if you walked into a store and put something in your pocket, did you look around to make sure nobody saw you steal what you were going to steal? The first time
I wouldn't.
Let me ask you.
Start off with.
What I'm saying is if you do something wrong, does something in your head say this is wrong? I'm not supposed to be doing this. That's your conscience. That's God, bro. That's God.
Well, that's
because every time you hear me out. Every time you do something wrong and you go against what your brain is telling you, hey, you don't need to be doing this, you get in trouble when you don't do it. Well, I'm not supposed to be drinking and driving, and I know I'm not supposed to be drinking and driving, but I do it anyway. I get in trouble. If I steal something, I know I'm not supposed to steal it. How do I know I'm not supposed to steal it? The Bible says that God put his knowledge in your heart. His laws are in your heart. So when you know you're doing something wrong, that's God telling you you're not supposed to be doing that, brother.
Yeah, so that's not always the case. So sometimes you'll do something and go, well, is that wrong or not? Like I feel bad, but then once you think about it, you go, hey, well, that's what's best for everybody. So I think that sort of reducing a God to just your conscience is kind of reducing God to my
friend. I'm saying that's one way you know that there is a God.
Finish?
Yeah,
can I finish?
Finish really quick.
Because if you reduce it to just your conscience, just your moral intuition is what you're talking about. Sometimes that's wrong. Sometimes you go, oh, I did really badly in doing this. But then when you talk to other people, you think about it, you go, actually, that was a good decision. We can change what that is depending on circumstance. And, you know, there's a reason why a Reddit thread is, am I the a-hole, right? It's like going, did I do the wrong thing by this or not? So it's not necessarily the case that you just know. And it's not necessarily the case that if you realize that you may have done something wrong, that you're always correct about it when you actually examine the circumstances. So the problem comes that if you're reducing it just to conscience, then you've got to do away with what's prayer for, what's eternal salvation for.
But I'm not reducing it. I'm telling you that's one way that we know that there is a God. I'm not reducing anything. Because God put it in our, we know, do you know that sleeping with another man's wife is wrong?
Yes, but I don't need a God to tell me that.
Does a monkey know that sleeping with another ape's girlfriend is wrong?
Yes.
No, he don't.
In some groups. Yeah. So among social
animals, they will fight, and they will fight until there's a winner, and then the winner gets the girlfriend.
Yeah, so in social situations,
that's a good
social situations. Yeah, so in social situations, especially among social animals, trying to take somebody else's mate will like sort of get the troop angry at them, or there might be other social repercussions. But just because our sense of morality is more highly developed and more structured doesn't mean that, hey,
how did it get more highly developed?
Can I talk?
You can talk. I'm asking you to explain. I'm asking you to explain your train of thought. You're saying that we have a higher thought. Mm-hmm. How do we have a higher thought? How do we have that?
Over time. Yeah, okay, it's a long cry over time. Could I speak, or are you just going to speak over me? Because I don't know.
Yeah, let's let each other finish. But I'm just going to say too, Bruce, I really like that. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, so
go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a long time. We've thought a lot about things from, say, the time of, the ancient Greeks or the Old Testament, where you could sell your daughter as a slave kind of thing. Like, we've thought a lot about this stuff, what's right and wrong over time, and said, hey, it's not acceptable to have slaves. It's just a matter of sitting down and actually looking at the consequences for our decisions. Like, if you have people as slaves, you're going to end up with something like antebellum slavery, which is horrible for people, and it's going to cause all kinds of problems for the society, not just the slaves but also the slave owners. It caused massive problems. So we've sort of refined morality as it's gone along, and it's the same as our technological knowledge. You might as well ask, why didn't we have technology in the past? We just didn't know about it. That's all.
We had technology. We can't explain how they made the pyramids. We can't explain it. We have no idea how they lifted 10 million ton stones, have no clue.
10
How'd they
million
do it?
ton stones. Is that what
Whatever,
you think the pyramids is?
I'm saying, how do they move those great big humongous stones without technology? They had some kind of technology, or they wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
Okay.
It's called like sort of masonry for the time. They were quite very, very, very good masons, and they used I
Where'd they
believe
learn
some
that?
sort of friction method. Where did they
Where'd
learn
they learn
that?
that? Yeah. If
What
an
do you
ape,
mean?
if we evolved from apes, when did an ape learn to make steel? When did an ape learn to
When did
make a
an
musical?
ape?
Let me finish. Let me finish. You wanted me to let you finish.
Okay, I just trying to understand.
When did an ape learn to make steel? When did he learn to dig up ground and put it in a furnace and melt dirt down and become steel? When did they learn to make a musical instrument? When did they learn to make anything? Can an ape now make anything? No. They can't build a building. They can't make concrete. They can't do nothing. None of that. Where'd they learn that from? If we evolved from an ape-like creature, how do we know how to do stuff and they have no clue?
I'm sorry, but that's actually a really good point. I'm not even just saying it because I'm not agreeing with evolution. That's actually a really good point. When did any of those things happen? If they evolved first.
In actual fact, chimps are at the moment going through a stone age. They're starting to use stone tools and sticks and things like that. They're actually beginning to understand to use tools. So that knocks that right out of the park that they don't use tools.
If we've been here for billions of years.
Can I finish? I need to be able to finish. This is ridiculous. He just interrupts me every 2 seconds I speak.
Yeah, let's let each side go ahead and talk in full, and then that way we can have a conversation, and it's not like an argument.
Have some self-control. I let you speak. Let me speak. You know, when we used to learn steel, well, right after the Iron Age, which was right after the Bronze Age, which was right after the Copper Age, which was right after the Stone Age. So this is knowledge that we've accrued over time. It's sort of like saying, well, when did humans learn to, you know, fly? Well, it was a series of steps. It wasn't just, hey, we just, you know, arrived and created a Boeing 747. That's not what happened. It was like small incremental steps towards it. So you asking that, like, when did an ape do that? Well, whenever humans did it. Do you think that humans just arrived on Earth with knowledge how to make steel? Is that what you think?
I think you want to know what I think. Let me finish. Now you asked me a question, so I'm going to answer.
Sure. Yeah. No. I'm really interested.
All right.
I swear, guys are always like this. I swear, y'all never fail me. You guys just go ahead. Go, Bruce.
The thing you're saying is we have had billions of years to evolve, right?
Yeah.
So it took us billions of years to learn how to make steel, but the chimp still doesn't know how to do it.
Correct.
Okay, so if he's been here for billions of years and he's been using sticks and stones, why doesn't he know how to do what we know how to do?
Because chimps don't have the same
Why don't they?
Can I finish, please? Please. Like, seriously, don't just interrupt me whenever I talk, because they don't have the same socio-technical ability that we do. We can teach others how to use them. They don't have the same communication skills that we do. So if one chimp discovers something like how to bang something with a rock, okay, he can show the other chimps kind of thing, but generally any knowledge is lost. You're sort of asking why chimps aren't able to pass on complex technical instructions to other chimps, and because they don't have the same attributes that humans have. Like I said earlier, humans put all their points in intelligence. Chimps are much stronger than us. They will absolutely flatten you. Like, they are so much stronger.
Right. So if we evolved from them, why are they stronger than we are if we're supposed to be better than them?
We didn't evolve from them. We didn't evolve from them, Bruce. This is where the straw manning is terrible, because I've said this again and again and again.
It's no
and you just keep saying
it.
You say, hey, we evolved from chimps. No, we didn't. No, literally, Bruce, get it through your head. Literally, no one is saying that. Nobody is saying that.
Look,
we're saying we shared a common ancestor. That's the difference.
What does that common ancestor?
Ancestor would mean, hold on, let me jump in. Ancestor would mean that you came from them.
No, because they weren't chimps back then. They evolved as well. They changed as well.
That
And
makes no sense, Mark.
their environment, like was the beneficial thing in their environment was a lot of strength, some pack behavior, hunting techniques. Ours was different. Our strength is our smarts, our intelligence, our brain. And so we evolved that. They evolved their thing. We are not the same as what we used to be. So we didn't come from chimps. We came from an ancestor that was shared with them that we branched off and changed rapidly. We didn't come from chimps at all.
But if we change rapidly, isn't evolution a slow process? So how then would it change rapidly?
Well, it's not rapidly. Like, the split off was millions of years ago. Like, it's ages ago. So it's small, gradual changes that add up over time. Now, if you look at where humans come from, the African savanna, being upright and being able to look is a really beneficial trait. The chimps generally are in jungles. Being able to stand up and look is not that beneficial because you can't see much. Being like sort of low to the ground is actually more beneficial. Also with sort of, hunting techniques, they're ambush hunters. We're not. We're persistence hunters, which is why we sweat. It's just a difference in environment that has produced these changes. And we had to have a great intelligence because we couldn't rely on just being physically stronger in the savannah. A lion's going to take you out. There's no question about it. You can't fight a lion, not with just brawn and your fingernails. It's not going to happen.
So I have a question here. What is there a difference between humans and animals?
Well, it's a category error. It's just everything in Animalia is just animals, right? So everything that falls into that category. So insects, chimpanzees, humans, everything is an animal except for the other kingdoms like plants and, fungus, right? Like, so everything in that is animals. But that's a technical term. I get when you say animal, you mean, a non-human animal, one of the other mammals. But what I'm saying to you is that the way that we categorize it is that all of us are animals, and the traits that we give to animals, humans have all of them, like all of them.
So there's a huge difference between animals and humans, Mark.
Oh, what's the difference?
There's a huge difference. Number one, animals have never, ever, ever been over human beings. Like I said last time, they've never put a collar around our neck and walked us every day and made sure we were fed and watered and took us to the vet when we were sick. And Bruce, I'm going to put your mic off because it's like you have a loud echo. And then when you're ready, go ahead and unmute, but it has a loud echo. But that's never happened. Humans have always been over creation. Again, over the birds.
So
cows.
Do you realize in biology and taxonomy, we're not looking at relationships like social relationships, like who domesticated who, that in taxonomy and, genetics and biology, we're just looking at relationships. We're not, the physical, the phenotypic relationships. We're not looking at how they engage with one another. So when we say, hey, all of these things are animals, we're really saying they have a selection of these traits, like, for instance, no cell walls around their cells, no ability to photosynthesize. They're when we split them into, say, mammals, for instance, would you agree that humans are mammals?
So what I believe is, like what we have went over a million times, that humans are humans. They're uniquely made, and cows are cows and dogs are Genesis 1. I tell you, this is the proof every single time. And I'm not trying to be repetitive or be disrespectful, but in the beginning, God created heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the lakes, the seas, the everything in them, and everything is exactly the way that he said it would be. And we have proof of this because it's still the exact way that it was named in the beginning. But evolution
I would
says
probably
that, hold on, now it's
disagree
my
with
turn
that.
to talk. Hold on. Now, evolution says that we can't see any of this stuff. We'll never be able to test any of this stuff. It was so long ago, and it's such a slow process that it's going to take millions and millions of years before there's the next change or whatever. And we don't know what that change is going to be, but you have so much more faith than I have. Honestly.
Oh, no.
Yes, you do. Yes, you
Okay,
do.
Kniesha, can I speak now, or are you just going to
I
interrupt
wasn't
me?
done, but this is what I wasn't done.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're just trying to sort of, say that I've got faith and stuff when I don't. Or it depends on what your that's a really loud sound. It depends on what
there's like a loud echo from a
it depends on what if you're sort of saying, hey, it's faith, like I've got no evidence, that's not anything at all. It's like you're sort of saying, hey, there's been a murder, and in order for me to prove there's a murder, you've got to show me it happening right in front of me. And that's not how we gather evidence for stuff. What we do is we look at the evidence, the gathering of information about it to say, hey, this is what happened. So what you're doing at the moment is sort of going, well, you've got all this stuff that you say is evidence. I'm not going to look at it, but what I'm going to do is say, you've got to show me that event in front of me, even though that event was in the past.
No, because what's happening is you're saying evolution is just genetics just changing. Like somebody in this family had 6 fingers, now their daughter has 6 fingers. That's proof of evolution. Somebody with this virus, now all of a sudden this person has virus, or this thing has virus, and that's proof of evolution. It's not evolution. None of this. I'm just summing it up because I'm not going over all that silly la stuff, Mark. Because that's
I don't think you understand it. I don't think you understand what I've said.
You are believing the lie that this is fact when it's not fact. Somebody having traits passed down to their children, grandchildren, everything like that, and it's just traits, genetic traits, as we went over before in previous streams. That is not proof of evolution. That is a human being passing down traits exactly the way they're supposed to. DNA does a funny thing.
Yeah, that's not how DNA or genetics works, and you sort of have just sort of really misrepresented what I've said about viruses because you don't understand it. But the problem is, Kniesha, that you're not willing to understand it. What you want to do is just say, hey, my religion is true, and in order for me to believe literally this book, I have to disbelieve this. So you're not even correctly representing what I've said. You've just said that, oh, this thing has a virus, therefore evolution. I never at any point said that, right? Like that is just the most ridiculously simplified and I'm really sorry, but ignorant representation of the evidence that we have. But you're not willing to look at the evidence because you have to have.
Okay, show me one evidence. Show me one. Just show me.
I've already gone through so many.
You haven't.
Like it. Okay.
You haven't shown me proof of anything.
Can I jump in here?
So what do you mean by proof? Okay, because like I said,
I explained to you already several times earlier.
Well,
okay, proof is if I want to show proof that what God said in the beginning, that he created mankind and everything in it.
Yes.
We can test this. If I wanted to create another cow, all I have to do is take one male, one female, boom, it creates another cow. If I wanted to recreate a plant, I have thousands of plants. If I wanted to create a plant, all I have to do is take the plant, whatever, recreate. It's still a plant. Like this is what I'm saying. This proof is what I'm wanting you to show me, that something evolving, because you said that we had previous ancestors. Mm-hmm. Okay, where is the proof? I did. Where is the proof of these ancestors changing? And I don't mean they're still humans and they just have like funky heads from this type of gene that they had, or DNA issue, whatever the thing may be. That's going to be the reasoning. I'm talking about them changing kinds, because if we were once ape-like, ancestors of apes, whatever, where is that proof? There is no proof that human beings were apes.
So the fossils, the endogenous retroviruses, you also like what you're saying in order to have proof is you showing me. It's just like that murder. Can somebody turn off their thing? This is ridiculous. They're just sort of just sort of saying, hey, somebody got murdered. You've got to show me proof, like do it in front of me when it was in the past. Like this is the problem that you're having. And I might add that you saying, hey, my book says this thing, and that is what I see in front of me over a short time frame, isn't proof that your God did it. There are a million other explanations that you could posit for the reason it doesn't get you to proof, because it could be magic, it could be aliens, it could be
religion or whatever.
It could be magic, it could be aliens, it could be a purple unicorn. You cannot say just because my book says that is proof that it was done, any more than I could say just because a biology textbook says this, that means it happened, because that's not what I'm doing. I am pointing to actual evidence like we would in forensic evidence, saying, hey, we found their fingerprints on the DNA. We found this guy hanging in the area. We have this evidence that says that they were there. That is what I am doing. I'm presenting you with evidence. What you're doing is going, well, my book says a thing, and like that thing happens, which they would have observed at the time. You're just like a flat earther. My book says it's flat, and I see a flat earth. Therefore, God created the earth. That is what they do.
All I've asked for, and then Bruce, you can talk. All I've asked for is some type of proof. Just one.
Yeah, and I'm saying I'm giving you proofs as evidence, but if you're expecting proof to be like seeing millions of years of evolution in front of you, well, I'm sorry, unless you can live millions of years, you are not going to see those changes. Right? Just like when you go to the gym and you make small incremental changes, it doesn't look like anything from day to day. You're like, I haven't changed at all. But if you compare 6 months earlier with the new version, it will be significant change. This is the thing. You're just being unreasonable with the evidence that you're requiring, because you need millions of years to see those kind of changes. And I don't have a million years.
Then to believe in God, do you think that's an unreasonable thing to do, to believe in God?
I don't think so, no. I think that people have experiences that I don't have access to, so they believe it on these things. But what is unreasonable is sort of saying, well, I've got an ancient book from 2,000 to 6,000 years ago. That should supersede any modern scientific evidence that we come up with, because that's my faith. I think that is unreasonable. So thinking a God maybe did these changes or did this process or, did all of this stuff, well, you're putting your religion up against science. And I'm really sorry, but religion has not been the most reliable over the years.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead, yeah.
I got a question for the scientist guy. Let me ask this. If natural selection is a thing, that only the strong survive, right? That's natural selection, ain't it?
No.
Natural selection isn't only the strong survive?
Nope.
Then tell me what a natural selection is.
So survival of the fittest means the most adapted to the environment, right? Like, so the one that adapts to the environment the best. So it could be that, hey, an adaptation to the environment is being really smart, for instance. An adaptation to the environment is having a high level of sociability, like being able to work together, right? That is advantageous in the environment. So it doesn't mean necessarily stronger. It doesn't mean necessarily weaker. It just means whatever allows you to survive in that environment. For instance, sloths, for instance, their slowness is one of their protections. They move really slowly and they're camouflaged, so they blend in. They're perfectly adapted to their environment where there's a lot of trees. Put them in a desert, not so much. Sloth will go bye-bye. Like whatever your environment is. And humans have been so successful, not because we've adapted to all of these environments, but rather we've changed the environments to us. Humans really can only survive in a very narrow equatorial band. Outside of that, and we freeze to death at night. It's only through technology and being able to, change the environment, build houses and stuff, artificial caves, if you will, that we've been able to survive outside of that band.
Okay, so answer me this. If we were in Africa, where all the lions and tigers and leopards and all this stuff is, how did man survive? How did man survive with all them carnivore animals around? How did we do that?
Tools.
How did we
Number one tool. Yeah, I'm answering you if you'll let me talk, because you seem to ask questions then not allow me to talk. It's kind of a bit frustrating. Number one, we had tools, spears, knives, things like that. Number two, humans are social. I won't say animals because you don't like that, but we're social beings, right? We work between each other. We are very, very strategic. So we kind of defended each other, because a human by themselves, well, that's lion food, right? It was Bruce, wasn't it? That's lion food, right, Bruce? 100%, right? You're by yourself. Get 5 of them together, hey, then it doesn't become so bad. Get 5 of them together with spears, and suddenly those guys have a fighting chance against a lion. Still not great, but, you have a fighting chance.
But according to science, we were cavemen. We didn't know anything. We didn't have tools. We didn't have spears. We didn't have rocks. We didn't even know what fire was.
What do you mean? I mean, Homo habilis really means handyman. They were the ones
hold on, guys. Hold
tool.
on 1 second, Bruce. There's like a really bad
He sounds
feed. I don't know if you want to drop off and come back in or something, but there's this really loud, when you unmute, it's overpowering. You can't hear anything on the so maybe drop out and then come back in, maybe fix the mic or something. Something's going on with your mic, Bruce.
Yeah, and and while he does that, I just want to sort of say that the sort of brutish caveman archetype that we have in our mind isn't really how science defines these sort of ancestral men. They were they had stone tools. They developed flint and they developed spears. They developed these things. It's slow going, but to sort of say, hey, they were just completely stupid, had no idea of anything. Well, that's not really the case. They took care of their dead. We found burial sites and things. They weren't just, these idiot, morons that didn't do any of this stuff. But we know that elephants take care of their dead as well. You have elephant graveyards where they go and they sort of, they seem to remember their dead and honor them. It's very strange, but elephants do this as well. And we see these traits around the animal kingdom. So I don't think the idea of cavemen that knew nothing about anything is really accurate at all. Nobody's saying that.
So I want to just reel it in, because I think sometimes when we just kind of get on different subjects and whatnot, it can kind of go all over the place. So because I kind of wasn't listening. I'm sorry, because I was looking at something over here on my screen, my other screen, when you guys were talking. Mm-hmm. Did you guys go over natural selection, or did I hear that, or am I just thinking of?
Well, yeah, so Bruce thought natural selection was survival of the strongest, and that's not exactly true. What I'm saying is that natural selection chooses whichever traits will help an organism survive and reproduce. But one part of that is sociability, the ability to work together, and that's one of humans' greatest strengths, right? That a single human is pretty completely boned against a lion, but when you get a bunch of them around with spears or something, that becomes a completely different story. Being able to work together is one of our greatest strengths, always has been. So, this misunderstanding that it's just whoever is biggest and strongest and dominates it's a complete straw man. It's not what evolution says in the slightest. In fact, sociability and pro-social behaviors, being able to work with other people, is actually a great strength for humans and other animals, by the way. That's how chimpanzees hunt. They use pack tactics. Wolves with pack tactics, right? They can bring down moose and stuff. A single wolf can't do that. Has to be a pack.
So does natural selection have anything to do with evolution?
Yeah, it's one of the mechanisms that contribute, like a mechanism for evolution. There's other ones. There's natural selection. There's sexual selection, right? Like, so if only you mate with certain animals that have, bright feathers or, a certain color, then that will become a trait that is reinforced in the population. You have genetic drift, which means that, hey, just natural events, say like a volcano wiping something out, will drift the genetic pool away from those that have been wiped out. So that's a part of randomness that enters it.
So how big does natural selection have a play in evolution, percentage-wise? Is it like half of the percentage, like 10%? Like, give me like kind of a rough, how important is natural selection in the evolution world?
Well, it varies with species. So some might have a greater influence of sexual selection or some other selection method, but usually a fair amount, like I would say over 50%. But there's a ton of these mechanisms, like, for instance, endosymbiosis, when one cell eats another cell and it becomes part of that cell's genetic makeup. We've seen this happen today. Nitroplasts, which of sort of an algae eats a nitrogen cell and it can't digest it, so it works with it. And there's also endogenous retroviruses. Viruses can infect your DNA, and if it provides a benefit that outweighs what the virus is doing that's destructive, it'll get like selected for and fixed in the DNA of that animal. So there's a ton of these mechanisms, and we're just starting to find them all out and discover them.
So how big does reproduction have a hand in evolution then? Because I know without reproduction, everything dies. Like, I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, it has a huge, it has a huge influence on it. Like, if you can't reproduce and pass on your genes, then, it won't get passed along. You won't, those traits won't be selected.
So so for instance, obviously my belief, because I believe the Bible says that there's male and female of everything, right? Now, because I believe that this is fact, and we have the proof of the male and female, isn't it not coincidental that everything in nature has male and female to continue to reproduce in the animal kingdom, the bird kingdom, the fish kingdom, plants, even, et cetera, et cetera? Don't you think that that's not really coincidental that there's male and female throughout?
Is there? So you don't think some animals reproduce asexually?
Why is it? This drives me nuts. Why is it? I swear, LGBTQ people and atheists do this all the time. When something is plain as day as just saying there's male and female to reproduce, you guys put the most random, like, far out that you ignore, like, the 99.99999% of everything that happens in the world on a repeat. You guys go to the most far stretched thing instead of just simply saying, yeah, that's true. The male and female do this. Like, why does it have to be this weird, like, la la land, furthest, most random, probably not likely, and is not common example? Why do you guys do that? Like, I really would like to pause the whole thing about evolution and talk about that. Why do you guys do that?
Well, it's because you're patently wrong. There's some fish that use asexual reproduction. There's plants that use asexual reproduction. So they use budding or propagation or cloning or sporation. They use all kinds of things that they don't have a male and a female. And I'm not talking about humans. I'm just talking about, like, you said animals and plants, they all have male and female. I'm sorry, that's just false. That's just wrong. I'm sorry, it just is. Sorry. A lot of them do, yeah, but not all of them.
So
I
evolution,
mean, I don't know
you
what to tell
said
you.
needs reproduction.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to reproduce, you need male and female. There's no
No.
way human beings got here without male and
Okay,
female.
I'm not talking about human beings, because you said all throughout nature, plants, animals, etc. Reproduction can be sexual, right? It can have gametes from the male and the female that combine. They pass over information, but you also have asexual reproduction, where
So what
say
about male and female humans? Let's start there. Let's actually
okay,
talk about a subject. And before I say that, everybody in the back too, don't worry, I'm gonna have you guys come up on stage. Just give us just a few more moments here. And then atheists watching, please click that link as well to go to the backstage and yeah. But anyways, so let's just start there. Male and female human beings, that would require a male and female evolution at all times.
yeah, probably, except for some fringe cases, absolutely.
So for that, isn't it just like a little obvious that there's always been male and female for reproduction? For human beings, period. Cows, dogs, whatever.
Sure.
We can keep saying the
Sure.
same things over and over. There's always
Sure.
been male and female. Now, if this was, let's say, accidental, okay, where it was not planned or designed for us to be here, isn't that a little bit too on the nose coincidental that everything requires male and female to keep reproducing?
Yeah, that's false.
Because
Everything
natural
doesn't
selection would
require
require
male and female
reproduction.
to continue to reproduce. Yeah, that's just false. So you have, say, fish in the Amazon that reproduce asexually. They're all female and they still reproduce. But it's a huge advantage to be able to share genetic information with others, because it prevents a lot of genetic disease. Because if one's got an error in some of their DNA, it's a massive advantage to be able to swap over genes, and some of your offspring won't have that anymore, right? Because if you're reproducing asexually, it will usually be the case that they will pass that genetic disease because they're not able to switch genes with somebody. So it will be passed down. So it's a massive advantage to be able to sort of, reproduce by swapping your genetic information with somebody else. Massive advantage.
So do you honestly think that things could keep going millions of years, because apparently not everything's billions, but millions of years without male and female constantly doing it?
Yes.
That's so
I
sad.
know it has, because bacteria still do it, Kniesha. They still do it. Do you think bacteria have male and female?
Still making bacteria.
Yes, but do they have male and female is my question. Do bacteria have male and female?
Bacteria is not human beings and animals and birds in the sky. Bacteria has always been bacteria because bacteria was created to be bacteria. So bacteria is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, just like human beings are doing what we're supposed to do. And dogs and cats and fish and birds.
Well, there's fish that produce asexually, so that just completely blows away your
keep going back to asexual.
hypothesis.
I don't know what's up with the homo stuff and the asexual stuff, but dude,
what do you mean? No, look, it's not. It's like, Kniesha, it's a biology term. It's not like asexual just means it doesn't have male or female gametes.
I know.
Right? It just means that it reproduces without swapping gametes. That's all it means. Right? That's it. It's a biology term. It's not meant to be this person is this and this, but no, it's just no human is biologically asexual. Well, I mean, parthenogenesis apparently occurred. I don't know But to the best of our knowledge, it doesn't happen. We don't reproduce. We reproduce sexually, not asexually, right? I'm not making a social commentary. I'm using a technical biological term. But there are fish that do it, and they have survived for, probably a few 100,000 years. So yes, it can be done. They have to have something to pass genes or somehow correct errors in their DNA, which makes it so fascinating to study them. That's why we want to study them. How do they repair their DNA if errors crop up? It's a good question. But before we actually find that out, we've got to actually go, well, there's something weird about these fish. We want to study why they seem so different. But you're saying nothing else does, and it's just factually incorrect. I'm sorry.
Science is great. Science is great. Okay? What I'm saying is evolution theory is not science.
Oh, it 100% is, yeah.
It's not. Because you're
all
never
of the national science
you're never
institutes.
able to repeat it. You're never able to test it. Okay,
It's the most tested theory it's the most tested theory in the history of science. We've made a number of tests regarding all of the mechanisms of evolution.
They're lying to you.
See, this is the conspiracy theory again. They're all lying. All of the Christians that accept evolution, the Catholic Church which accepts evolution.
I don't care who
all of these
evolution
people,
theory. It's
all
a
of the
lie.
scientists are lying, even though they all agree, except for
anyone
some
who
religious
believes
science.
that you are not created and that you are an accident and you just evolve in natural selection,
Yeah,
whatever
I'm sorry,
they want to
you're
say,
just wrong.
outside of being created, because creation is the only thing that we can test, that we can repeat, that
How can you
anybody
test creation?
look, I don't even have to trust a scientist. Again, if
How
I
can you
want
test
to
creation?
reproduce to see if God's theory is right or his message is right, I could just go have sex with my husband and we'll create another human being, and I'll test this to see with my own eyes. I don't even have to believe somebody in
That
the lab.
doesn't point to a god.
I don't
That could
even
be
have to
magic.
believe
It could be
somebody in the
aliens. It
lab.
could be anything else. Like, it doesn't actually point to a god. What you're doing is starting with the conclusion that your Bible must be right, and then going, well, everything I see around me leads me to that conclusion. What we're doing is going, what do we observe in the world around us, and what conclusion does that lead to? And I'm really sorry, but this is what you're doing. You are so biased towards your conclusion that you will accept anything, including seeing a tree, as evidence that your conclusion is right. But the problem is that I could say aliens did it, and it would be exactly the same evidence for aliens or magic or mystical penguins, whatever I could make up. But you're sort of locked onto this one conclusion. I'm really sorry, but you're wrong. You can't even describe evolution correctly, much less argue against it, because all you're saying are things that are incorrect. Like all animals and plants and organisms, they're all like male and female. It's just not true. I'm sorry. And this is the thing. I'm not trying to sort of go, hey, you can't believe in a God, or, you're wrong for believing in a God. I don't know if a God exists, right? I don't think so. I don't believe so, but I don't know. But these things that you are saying are factually incorrect. I'm sorry.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you.
Sure. Go for it.
So in the fossil records, you see that organisms come into the fossil records fully formed and then come out of the fossil records without evolving into anything else, right?
What do you mean fully formed? Like, we'll have like juveniles and even eggs where they're forming. I don't know what you mean by fully formed.
Fully formed into a certain organism. Like there are no transitionals or intermediates, right?
Really? You think there's no transitionals? Like, we've found tons of them.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everything's transitional. If everything is evolving, then everything is transitional to whatever's coming next. That's the thing. But things like Tiktaalik, which has a mixture of amphibian and fish
sort of attributes. It has a mix of traits between the two of them. You have what's the one that's whale and thingo? Actually, a better one is Archaeopteryx, which is a bird with feathers. Well, can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish, please? Yes. Is a bird with feathers, but it also has teeth and a reptilian hip structure, which looks exactly in between a bird and a reptile.
That is the only one they thought it was a transitional or an intermediate, and it turned out to be that it wasn't.
That's still an intermediate. It's got a mosaic fossil.
Everything else was drawn.
Do you have some kind of something saying that they've disproved it? Where is that from? Which scientist is saying?
You want me to start with Charles Darwin? I have many.
Yeah, I mean, he predicted it. Charles Darwin predicted it, but he didn't say, "Hey, that's not a transitional
Mark, you got to let him talk now too. You got to let him.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, innumerable transitional forms must have existed. Why do we not find them embedded in countless numbers in the crust of the earth? And this is Origin of Species, page 162. That's the first quote.
And so Darwin basically wrote that at the start of our understanding of evolution. It was only a year later after he wrote that they found Archaeopteryx, which Darwin predicted. He predicted a bird with unfused wing claws, basically. It would have claws on its wings. And he predicted that, and then they found it. And since then, we have found more and more and more of them. In fact, what you're describing is Darwin being completely right about finding all of these transitional fossils. 100%
if there was
right.
Such thing as evolution, we would be walking like on top of transitional fossils, intermediates. This world would not be able to sustain any transitional, the amount. Think about it for a second, Mark.
Fossils are rare.
From a bat, just think about it. Okay. You know the timeline, like for an example, the timeline where you see like from an ape slowly like evolving to a man, right? You ever seen that timeline?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Say
are you talking about the picture? The picture?
Yeah, I'm just giving you an example. For an example, right?
Yeah, so that isn't accurate, my guy. Like, seriously, it's
Mark,
just...
let him finish.
Okay, I understand that. I understand that, Mark. I understand that's not accurate. But I'm just giving you an example so you could think about this for a quick second, okay, please? Okay, what happened to all the intermediates and transitionals from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, from the ape to the fully formed human? You know what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, in between, from being an ape to an actual human, where are those transitional pieces at? That's what you're asking, right, Chip?
Yeah. So how many are in that picture?
That's what I'm trying. Think about it. That's what I'm trying to ask you.
Well, I'm asked a specific question. Let's say how many are in that picture?
Let's say there's 8, but just to get from the first one to the second one, there would be a countless innumerable amount. It would be, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
So there's 8, right, in that picture, and there's been hundreds of them found. Right, like I can maybe put in the thing, like from the National Center for Science Education, transitional fossils are not rare. I'll put it in the private chat. You can share it in the normal chat if you want. There's a ton of transitional fossils found. So that picture, you're saying, where are they? And we found them. That's the thing. You don't just...
You said we've found fossils, right?
Yeah, in between like those ones that were shown
about
in
like
the
Oliver
picture.
Nebraska Man.
No, that Nebraska Man was a fake, I believe.
Yeah, and so was Oliver, like a pig's and so was everything else they found.
Yeah, no, like things like Lucy, Littlefoot, they're not fakes. They're absolutely
Lucy
true.
was considered a fake. Lucy was
no, it
wasn't. A chimpanzee.
No, this is a lie. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no way Lucy can be a
Okay,
chimpanzee.
let's say
she
I'll give you-
walked.
let's say
She hang on. Well, let me
I'm,
finish. Let me
I'm sorry.
finish.
Go ahead,
She
Mark.
walked. She walked upright. Like,
Mhm.
how can she walk upright if she's a chimpanzee? Why doesn't her bones look like chimpanzee bones? Why do they look like human bones in some areas?
Okay, why do they die off?
They evolved. They didn't. I mean, everything dies off, right? Like the same people around who were a lot shorter before in the 1700s, they're not alive. So why did they die off?
I'm sorry. Why didn't the beginning of the spectrum die off, or why didn't the end of the other side of the spectrum die off yet?
Why didn't the other end of the spectrum die off?
You understand what
yet?
I'm asking?
Like,
you?
why, if
No.
we came from, look, if we came from, he's saying like a ape and a human, like, why are there still apes and humans? Why didn't one of them die off if we evolved from that? Is that right? Did
Okay,
I
so if you're
get that
talking
right?
about
That's right, Kniesha,
you're
and
talking
everything in
about a
between.
common, so if you're talking about a common ancestor way back under evolutionary pressure, like there may have been predators, there may have been a change in environment, there may have been a drought, there may have been all kinds of things that happened. One adapted in one way, humans, massive intelligence, used tools, and one adapted in another way, very strong, good short-term memory, very, very mobile, like chimpanzees. So they branched out. Anything that couldn't adapt to the environment didn't hang around. If they can't adapt, you're gone.
Okay, so is that your answer for why they are not walking around anymore? Like we don't see them anymore?
Yes.
So everything in between, you believe that everything in between just died off and they're not walking around anymore?
My guy, 99 point something % of species are extinct.
Okay, yeah. And that's another thing. We're just talking about one species, Mark, right? Let's say, like I was just saying, like from the chimp to the man. What about from the bat, like a mammal to a mammal? Like let's say a bat to a whale. What happened to all those
an
species?
incredible amount of species.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, Mark.
In order to
walking on
get
fossils right now. We wouldn't have
no. Fossils are incredibly rare. They need the exact correct environment to be able to be preserved. They're not like, oh, well, you find them everywhere. No. They're very, very rare. Usually they're just subject to decay, erosion, and they're gone. They do need to be sheltered in some way.
Yeah, like because of sediment or something, right?
Yeah, or tar in the tar pits of California. There's other places they can be, like shallow water with certain mud. You know, there's a few places they can be. It's why you get all the concentration of fossils in certain areas, right? Like you get the fossil things of, I think it's Nevada or something. They like Death Valley, where it's like tons of fossils. But you know, in other places like the Eastern Coast USA, there's really not a lot. So we get the concentrations because they get destroyed most of the time, and it's very rare to find fossils. That's just the way it is.
But every fossil that we've found, that's what I'm telling you, that every fossil that we have found has come into the fossil record fully formed, and then they come out of the fossil record. Are you saying animals?
Well, they haven't been. Some have been sort of eggs that aren't formed. Or
so I just looked it up. It says there's actually worldwide millions, hundreds of millions of fossils there, and they are not rare.
Yeah, they are.
But not Mark, she's saying not transitionals or not intermediates. There are no such thing as transitionals or intermediates. The only one.
That's not what the science says.
The only one.
Not what the science says.
The only one was the one that you named before, and that one was considered not a transitional.
That is considered.
That was considered a bird.
You should look it up. Bird with unfused wing fingers and teeth. How many birds do you know with teeth?
A bird because it has teeth. Like if it's a bird, okay, if it's on the bird side, just because it has teeth and all this kind of stuff, that it was something else prior, completely different before. That would be its own species.
Like you said, Mark, most of the species are extinct, and you are correct about that. That there are many species that have gone extinct, but they have come into the fossil record fully formed, and they have gone out of the fossil record.
I don't know
without
what you
transitioning into
mean.
another
I'm
path.
really sorry. I don't know what you mean by fully formed. Like you're going to have
When I
half
say
a lion or something
no,
like that.
yeah,
It's
when I
very,
say
very
fully formed,
strange.
that they're not transitioning from one species to another. That's what I mean.
But
They're
they
the
are.
same species, and they've always been the same species. Like
How do you
men,
know? Can you prove that?
like human, we've only seen them. That's the fossil record. That's what the fossil record shows, that they've
No, it
always
doesn't.
been fully formed.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't show that they're always that same species, but you're making some claims that came into existence as that species and never changed from anything else. That is a positive claim. Can you prove that?
The only way I can prove it is, like I told you, I have tons and tons of quotes from evolutionists themselves, like
quote
Stephen
mining.
Jay Gould.
Okay, Gould is the most misquoted person in the history
Alec J.
of science.
Kelso.
But they still believe in evolution.
They believe it, but they all say the same thing. There's no, of course.
Yeah,
of course
I think you're lying.
That's,
I think you're lying. I think that you are misquoting people and taking it out of context.
okay, do you want me to give you the page number? Do you want me to give you the page number?
Sure.
Okay.
Give me the text and the page number. Go for it.
And while you're pulling that up, listen, like, Mark, what?
Yeah.
So you're familiar with the flood story in the Bible?
Yes.
Biblical wise, not just like you heard about it in the song or something.
Yeah, I'm not only familiar with the flood story, I'm also familiar with the Atrahasis and the Epic of Gilgamesh, which came before it, which shares
okay, let's talk. I don't care. I've told you before, I don't care about all them. I just the Bible.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Noah's flood, when God told Noah to bring the animals onto the ark, and he said, bring 7 pairs of this, animal or
Clean
whatever on here, and two of this unclean. Okay.
The unclean, yes.
So species and animals having these variations, okay, God didn't say bring the exact kind 7 times. The exact species 7 times. So if he said 7 dogs, 7 pairs of dogs, okay, so he could have brought Chihuahuas, he could have brought pit bulls, German shepherds, Great Dane, whatever. And this explains after the flood, okay, if the flood is correct, which I believe it is, but after the flood, how there can be all these variations of different kinds, how they could have kept up after the flood.
Okay, so I know the Bible better than you do because dogs are not one of the clean animals.
I just got done naming random thing just to get.
Well, they're not one of the clean animals. There would have been 2 dogs because they don't chew the cud and have a split hoof.
Get off your high horse.
No, seriously.
No,
you said 7 dogs. You said 7 dogs.
It doesn't matter. I literally don't mean dogs.
It does.
I'm using an example for what I'm trying to say. So if you want to
have
play
2
that
dogs.
game, Mark, we will end this conversation.
You have 2 dogs.
Because we don't need to be that petty. I'm trying to make a point.
You have 2 dogs.
I think that's really, really petty, Mark.
Well, it's not. It's accurate that there's 2 dogs, not 7. So how did they not get inbred?
Mark, come on,
Yes.
dude. Come on.
I'm serious. You said clean animals, and then you went on to say there were 7 dogs.
I was giving
that is not what the Bible says.
I'm trying to get my point. It doesn't matter if it's a dog, if it's a bird, if it's a whatever it is. I'm trying to make a point.
They're not clean either.
Of different species.
Okay, let's say cows, because they're a clean animal, right? They chew the cud and they have a cloven
cows,
hoof.
Mark, and that makes your little feelings feel
fine.
better. Let's go with cows.
Well,
okay?
I mean, I'm not the one wrong about the Bible. I'm
cows,
sorry.
We can do white cows. We can do spotted cows. We can do black cows.
Sure.
We can do red heifers. Whatever you want to do. Okay. This explains a variation of different species within the same kind. In the beginning, God created kinds, and these kinds would repeat the same kinds. This included what's above the earth, what's below the earth, what's in the ocean, what's in the sky, the plants, the fruit trees, everything would replicate the same kind. A variation of species, meaning one can be a melon and one can be a cantaloupe, whatever you want to say, fill in the blank, would not take away the fact that it's fruit.
Is fruit
but
kind?
What evolution is saying What evolution is saying, completely different kinds share the same ancestry, which would mean they came from it, by the way. That's kind of silly that you keep saying ancestry, because ancestry means I came from that. So to say you have apes as ancestors would mean a whole different kind is your ancestor, and you got to this point as a human being from a whole different kind. What I'm saying, I think I sound way more logical, and this is not just me saying it because it's me. I think it's more reasonable to say I can still see these same kinds repeating the same kinds over and over again.
Okay,
But
so
you're trying to convince me that it takes a very, 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 very long time, which we can never see for ourselves. We just have to trust the science that these kinds actually change. Because what you're saying it's small things, but you're not even talking about small things. You're talking about these whole different kinds. I mean, you just use the bird example, the reptile bird example. You're trying to tell me, but then you'll say that that's not what you're saying, but you're trying to tell me that that's not the evolution you're talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to get at this entire conversation.
So that's a straw man, what you just said there.
Everything
because
is a straw man.
evolution doesn't talk. Okay, I'm explaining why. Okay, if you understand what a straw man, it's misrepresenting someone's position. So you're misrepresenting my position because evolution does not talk about kinds at all. It doesn't deal with them. It doesn't suggest them. You're saying evolution says we came from different kinds. No, it doesn't. Evolution is saying that life is all one thing, and we put designations on how it changes into species, genus, family, order, these classifications, class and kingdom, phylum, all of these designations, they are just human attributes on a long chain of unbroken changes throughout organisms. We're not saying kinds. No one's saying kinds from my side. That's what you're saying.
Mark, I got a quick question for you if you don't mind.
Well,
so
I thought you were giving me the Stephen Jay Gould thing that he said that evolution was false.
I can give you that. You can find that online. I could give you the page numbers real quick.
Yeah, you've been telling me you're going to. So,
actually, I stopped him. So don't be rude, Mark, because I stopped him and I said, well, you're doing that. And then I started speaking. So it's not that he didn't give it to you. So don't pretend like he didn't just give it to you.
No, he said
I paused him.
I have it right here, Mark. I'm not trying to hide anything from you or nothing like that. I don't have nothing to hide from you, bro.
Yep, Stephen Jay Gould, go.
Okay, just quick question though, real quick. So you don't believe in God at all? You say that God does not exist. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So you're perfect. You feel like you're a perfect person?
No. Why would I say that?
So how do you know what is the standard of perfection if you're not perfect? Who's perfect in this world?
I don't think perfection is a thing in the real world. I don't think anything.
But I just asked you if you were perfect, and you said,
"Can I finish, please? Can I finish,
sorry.
please?"
Yes, you can.
I think perfection is an abstraction. I think it's something that we sort of define as exactly right, but it's kind of like saying something is exactly 1 centimeter. But when you get down to an atomic level, is it really 1 centimeter, right? I think it's an abstraction. We're really just saying, hey, this is the best that could ever be. And that isn't something that is achievable in the real world. I don't think it's an actual thing. I think it's just a concept. Like infinity, right? Like infinity is sort of conceptual. We can't really know if something's infinite in the real world. We can't tell. So I think it's just a concept.
So is sin to you just a concept?
Well, I mean, I try to understand sin as sort of immorality in a religious way, but it seems like sin is against a God. So I wouldn't say that I believe that anything is sinful. But if you want to say sin is just immoral actions, I do believe in those. So sin is a bit of loaded language. It's very sort of religious based. So I don't usually use sin, but I'll certainly use immoral. Absolutely.
Okay. So have you ever done immoral actions?
Sure.
Yeah. And that's why Jesus came into the world. He suffered and died on the cross to pay for your sin punishment for you. He already did it for you, Mark.
Yeah, you're saying that.
You just simply trust in him. You put your trust in him.
Yeah, I don't.
And you will have eternal life.
Yeah, I don't. I don't believe any of that stuff. Somebody has to provide me evidence of that before I believe it.
But see, this
But
is
you
what I
believe
tell
in
you every
evolution.
time that
I have evidence for evolution.
giving you
You
the
have
gospel.
absolutely no evidence for evolution. You might have
Oh, I got
evidence for
tons, yeah.
micro adaptation, but not for macro evolution. There is no
They're the
such
same
thing as
process.
macro evolution.
They're the same
No.
process, my friend. They are.
You'll never see a human person being grow wings or a tail or anything like that. They
Never.
stay in the human. There might be how do you say
So
like a mutation or something, but that's out
Yeah.
of the ordinary, right?
So if
And
there's
then
a apocalypse or something, if there's a massive like doomsday scenario, and the only way that humans will survive is being able to glide in some way, over maybe 1,000,000 years, that may happen because the people who can glide will be favored. They'll be the ones to have children. So I don't know that can never happen. I know it's not going to happen like in our lifetimes. That's absolutely clear.
you don't believe in the virgin birth.
No, no.
But
But
this
you
is what I'm
believe-
saying. You
interesting.
don't believe in the virgin birth. You don't
But you believe
in
a
God,
rock conceived you.
but you believe exactly. That makes no
What
sense.
do you mean by a rock? I don't. It sounds like Kent Hovind to me. Like you didn't think you came from a rock. So when
My
you're
friend.
talking about abiogenesis, you're really talking about like chemicals from rocks, from sky, from water. So why don't you say,
Everything you
well, you believe you
mentioned
came from?
has to have a beginning. It had to come
Yeah.
from somewhere. It didn't come from nothing.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much, Kniesha, for letting me on. Mark, it was nice talking
How
to
do
you.
you know
Take
that's a
care.
god? Is
Chip,
the
God
beginning?
bless you. Thank
God
you. You did
bless
a real
you.
good job, Chip.
Have a good night.
So did Bruce. Okay, so
I still didn't get that quote from Gould, so I don't think he's going to find it. I don't
he
think
put
it
it in the
exists.
chat.
Which chat? The private chat or the
Let me look.
the other
Hold
chat?
on.
I don't know who that was, so I don't know what I'm looking for.
Just look in chat, in the main chat.
Yeah, I'm looking. I can't see.
Okay, while you're looking for that, and then anyone, if you guys are having a hard time with the link, just click the description and then copy and paste the link in the description. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good one, Beast Mode. Dinos, I can never pronounce that. Dinusius are also a bird, but are related to raptors with feathers and can glide. Absolutely. They're more like dinosaurs than they are birds, but they still have feathers and could glide, and we've found evidence of that. It's cool.
But why reject your creator though? Like, why reject your creator and accept?
Because I don't think they're my creator.
evolution? But why just reject your creator and accept evolution when you don't have evidence for?
I do have evidence of evolution, tons of it. There's masses of it. There's scientific papers online with incredible amounts of evidence for it. That's the thing. You're taking that book over it, and you're welcome to. But you know, I'm just
the
sort of
book has
saying, hey, this is why I
itself.
believe it.
But the book
It
has
hasn't.
look, Jesus is the #1 talked about person, known person in all of history. There is
Really?
nobody more famous than Jesus Christ. Yes, really.
Do you think
You want to
that
try to
just
wiggle
because
out of that
somebody
one? The most famous
do
person
you
in
think
all of
that
history is
do you
Jesus
think
Christ.
that do you think that someone being talked about is any reason to think it is true?
Jesus
Because
Christ coming to
well,
this.
let me finish. Once Christianity started, it was probably the Roman Empire that was the emperor that was most talked about, right? Before Christianity really got started. Does that
I'm
mean
talking
that it
about right now.
changed?
You and I can verify for a fact that Jesus Christ is the most documented and talked about person in all of human history.
That
There
doesn't
is
make it
not a
true.
king, there's not a ruler, there's not a governmentship, there's not a war that is more documented than Jesus Christ. So
Okay,
tell me how little impact Jesus would have had to make to leave that kind of imprint on the world. It had to be something major. And this wasn't just the guy stubbing his toe and shouting out, "Oh crap." This was some person who
do you
came
think
and made
something is
such an
true
impact
because it's
on
talked
the
about?
entire world that to this day, this is the reason why you're here on this panel right now, because I'm a Christian,
don't
a
think so.
Christ follower. If I was a Buddhist or I was on here doing tarot cards, you would have never picked this stream every time.
I probably would have. Actually. I do engage with flat earthers. I do engage with Muslims when I can. So that's just a moot point, because I do engage with a lot of different people. It's just that predominantly the religion is Christianity, but that's a non sequitur, right? You're sort of saying because something is talked about the most, therefore it is true. That does not follow.
No,
Kniesha.
I'm saying Jesus
if
Christ
suddenly, hang on a second, let me finish. If suddenly people were talking about,
let you finish a lot of times tonight. Jesus Christ has such an impact
if a bunch of people started
everybody.
talking about Muhammad like more than Jesus, does that make Muhammad true?
That would make whatever happened with Muhammad significant. But because we don't have to play what ifs, we know for a fact that Jesus Christ
you're a Muslim
is the
as
most
well.
popular, well documented, talked about. People hate him, people love him. Doesn't matter. Out of everyone in history, we don't have to play what ifs. You can play that if you want to, but it's pointless because it ain't going to go nowhere. We can go somewhere. We're talking about who actually Jesus Christ is and the impact that he left on the world. This was not small, Mark, and the claims that he made to this very day irritate the spirit, irritate people. Something to the name of Jesus irritates people, either irritates or invites, but he impacts you regardless.
No.
If I want to say I believe in Buddha, you would have. Like,
no. Jesus doesn't impact me at all. It's the actions of Christians that impact me. Like, trying to get their version of religion into my life and the lives of people that I care about when they have no right to tell people how to live. That's my problem. So it's not Jesus that annoys people. It is the actions of Christians that annoys people. That does not mean that Jesus is a thing. I don't believe in it. I don't believe that ever happened. You're basically saying that not only did a guy rise from the dead, but also there was an earthquake and saints jumped out of their graves and walked around Jerusalem on a parade, when no historian ever recorded this. In fact,
neither did they record any apes.
Who wrote the Gospels? Who wrote the Gospels?
Sorry, bro, it didn't happen. You're believing
a lie. Who wrote
the
Gospels?
We actually have documents of Jesus being really here on earth.
What?
We have zero documents. As our brother Chip was doing a fine job saying, where's the transitional records? Where's everybody in between? We have zero records. We have zero records of an ape in between a human being.
Yeah, we do.
We have
Australopithecus, Ardipithecus, we have
the New
Homo
Testament
habilis, we have Cro-Magnon, we have Neanderthalis, we have tons and tons and tons of these transitional forms. So that's just outright false. And I've been going through them again and again. But just because Jesus might have been an itinerant preacher around 0 AD or 0 to 30 AD doesn't mean that he is some sort of God. And, we don't even know for any certainty who wrote the Gospels. It's said to be Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but we don't know that for sure. Biblical consensus says that the Gospels are actually anonymous. And also you get in the Bible, like the long ending of Mark, like they basically added stuff to it. All that stuff about handling snakes and being able to drink poison, that was added later because we've got earlier manuscripts, and this is what happens when you hang around with a biblical scholar. There's earlier manuscripts that don't have that long ending in it. It's just not there. It was added later. So what else was added? We don't know. We don't have the originals.
So for tonight, I'm going to pause our conversation, Mark. As always, I thank you for coming on, but I do want to get the other evolutionist on. But you're, like I say, every time we talk, you're not a mistake. You're here.
I don't think I am. Yeah, my purpose. Yeah, I think we all give ourselves purpose. Sure.
Mark, but this is the thing. You don't know when your last breath will be. Are you really that?
Neither do you.
To where you don't care if you literally. I mean, come on, Mark.
What?
You can't be. You can't.
Sure, I can. Look, I'm going to die, right? And so are you. You think there's something after? I see no evidence to believe this.
It doesn't
right?
matter
Like,
if
that's
you
what I
see
see.
the afterlife or not. It's there. You're playing a
So you
dangerous
claim.
game of Russian roulette,
So
and
you
you are
claim.
going to
No, I'm
lose
not.
this one. I
No,
promise
I'm
you,
not.
all the bullets are in the chamber on this one.
What
If you
if?
do not take the one way out, which is free, by the way, Mark, this will all
Like, I
make
don't
sense.
believe
This
it's
will all make
true.
sense if you
I
just.
do not believe it's true. You're basically just
I
saying, well,
understand that.
trust me, bro. There is an afterlife
I
if you
understand
believe
that.
and tithe your money and be a part of the church and do everything
Did
the
I
church
ever
says and
ask
all of
you
that
for that?
stuff.
Shame on you.
Like, follow the
Shame on you,
Bible.
Mark. Did I
You're
ever say
going to
anything like
get
that?
this immortal life, which I can't demonstrate and have
No,
nothing
Mark,
to
I'm
give me
not
to
asking
say
you
that it
to
is
have a
true.
religion. I'm asking you to have a relationship with the living God.
Yeah, I don't have relationships with imaginary figures. I don't.
Yes, you do. They're called
No, I
evolution.
don't. That's not an imaginary
It
figure.
is
That
very
is a
imaginative.
scientific theory,
It is
and it
not
is a
scientific.
fact. Evolution's a fact. It's a fact. Things pan down,
It's not a fact.
traits over time, and things change over time. That's evolution. The theory describes how the mechanisms work. And just saying, hey, my imaginary friend created it, isn't an answer. It isn't even approaching an answer. And all of these things I have asked you, how did the viruses get into the same position in our cells with chimpanzee? You can't answer. You don't even understand the question. Like, it's incredible. Like, you're basically commenting on the truth of evolution when you don't understand it. And that is the problem. That's the problem. So please
Change your mind one day, dude.
listen to some scientists on what evolution is, because the amount you have gotten wrong, quite frankly, is horrible. Like saying we came from chimpanzees, that is saying I don't understand evolution without actually saying it. I'm sorry.
This one night so I can bring the next people up, okay?
All right, no worries. Take care. Best of luck. I wish, fair enough. You got your religion. You're welcome to it. I just don't believe it. And here's all the reasons why. And I can talk about why. But I wish you the best. Wish you very well. Please read the science, please. But take care.
Bye, Mark.